This is a special presentation. Welcome to the Inside Track, presented by Red Shores. Here is your host, Kurt Hughes.
Well, thank you and welcome to another edition of the Inside Track. I'm your host, Kurt Hughes, and my guest tonight is Jerry McCabe, the man responsible for the great history you see throughout our properties. And I know doing some great work with Lee Drake on the Gold Cup reunion that's coming up, and it is my special guest tonight. Welcome, Jerry.
Thank you, Kurt.
You have a new book called Maritime Harness Racing Memories, and how did this project come about?
Well, my co-author and myself, Don McLeod from Moncton, we started chatting around it last fall. Don kind of come up with the idea there's no great photo memory books about maritime harness racing, and we thought we'd fill that void, and it kind of went from there.
Yeah, well, it's like a harness racing encyclopedia, and all of these is all these pictures and great information is dancing around inside your head. I call you the walking encyclopedia of harness racing in the Maritimes. The information you have is amazing. So where did you get all the wonderful photos in the book?
Well, they come about over time. I guess originally doing the wall here, Kurt, we gathered up images from all over the Maritimes, mainly the island, and at the end of that project, I ended up with about 3,000 images on my computer. And it's just grown from there. When the project came about, we decided we'd reach out and try to plug some of the gaps we had. So we approached some people, volunteers, to help get some more information, more photos. Rick Armstrong was a great help in St. John, among many, many, many others that helped. We had to head to the newspaper archives in some cases to fill in some of the gaps, and the old post calls, of course, is a great old standby for images. I also have to thank the late Huey Graham. He managed to get the late Doug Harkness's photos into my possession before he passed away. And 17 boxes of material arrived at my place one day, and just a treasure trove of maritime harness racing history, and a lot of those ended up here in the book as well.
Could you expand a bit more on what is in the book? I understand there's a Drivers' Championship photos with winners' accolade, etc.
Well, we took a chronological approach, and I guess the earliest images in the book, you go back to the late 1800s in Fredericton here in Charlottetown. It goes up through the decades, up to the year 1990. We decided we'd try to cover most of the major free-for-alls over the years, especially from 1960 on. So you'll find a lot of the photos from the Gold Cups, the Governor's Plates over that time, Alexander Memorial and Provincial Cup in St. John, Crookshank Memorial, and tried to cover a little bit from each province as well in each decade. So.
Yeah, and I see there on page, I think it was 26 there with George Kalbeck and Colonel Dan McKinnon, kind of like pioneers of Prince Edward Island racing.
Tried to cover a lot of those giants that made the industry what it is today, the Joe O'Briens, the Earl Averys. So a number of those people ended up with a feature in the book. Jimmy Doherty, who's in the Hall of Fame, Wally Hennessy, people like that. Doug Harkness, of course, for his contributions.
And I started reading it, and I read about 10 pages, and then I got to take a break and just kind of absorb all the information that's in it. It's just incredible. Do you have a favorite section or a photo in the book?
I guess a personal favorite would have to be a photo of John Jewell in Sunny Meadows. John Jewell was the first guy I worked for around the racetrack here when I was a young fellow. And Sunny Meadows would have been my favorite horse at that time. He raced in the Gold Cup in 1976. So that's a particular fun one for me.
And how did he do in the Gold Cup?
He ended up fourth behind Power Baron and a track record 2-1-4 at that time.
Information. It's incredible. Why did you choose to end the book at 1990?
Well, we had kind of an idea that we wanted it to be around 260, 265 pages to make it manageable. It seemed like a good time to kind of cut off to make it a historical memory book. The closing of Sackville Downs in 1986, the closing of Champlain New Brunswick Downs in 1991. We decided 1990, that's the last year of the only maritime only Gold Cup and Saucer, so it was a big change. We figured that's a good time to wrap it up.
Yeah, and it was really cool, the pictures of Sackville Downs and, like you say, Champlain over in Moncton, all the great Monktonians that they had over the years there. And I was looking at those photos. It's just incredible. So maritime Harness Racing Memories is on sale now. So where can we get it, and how much is it?
The book retails for $25. That's tax included. You can pick it up and purchase it at the Redshores at the entry to the casino. We also have copies available in Gail and Renata's photo booth, kiosk just opposite the winner's circle. And I'll be selling copies in the McGregor stable, the first barn at the head of the stretch here all week.
Well, thank you very much for doing this, and all the best with your new book.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks very much, Kurt.
All right, this is another edition of the Inside Track.
This has been a special presentation. The Inside Track was presented by Red Shores.